Oh, yeah. Freak out, freak out. Yeah, I'm looking right into the video scope, And this is Macho Man, #1 Macho Man impersonator, past, present, future. Yeah, and I'm here to tell you, you are watching 49er Minded with Bashar. Yeah, the cream of the crop. Dig it?
49er mind is it's not just a thought process, but a way of life. 49er mind. 49er mind. I can't shake it. It's 49er mind that I got. It's 49er shine that I got. My psyche's on another Frisco Super Bowl. Don't sit slow, cause here we go with a super show. A written goal session about a red and gold obsession. With some well-controlled expressions, let's talk about that win that we got. Who should have been in the spot? That's how they spin in the spot. Let's roll that back, all that crack, all that strip, fumble sack, or just dial it on up. If you wanna talk smack, it don't matter what the storyline, as long as the story aligns with a 49er mind. 49er minded. It's not just a thought process, 49er minded, but a way of life. For sure. 49er minded. Way of life. 49er minded.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of 49er Minded, where we get into the minds of 49er fans. And hope everybody enjoyed their Thanksgiving and had a great time with their friends and family. I sure did myself. So let's just see who's waiting in the chat patiently. Let's see. We got Damian Lee. What's up, Damian Lee? Says, what's up, 49er Minded? We have Joey Mahoney says, Bash, we get into the minds of 49er fans. That's what we try to do. It's not just a thought process, it's a way of life. And Melissa's in the chat. Let's bring Melissa on. We got Melissa here. How you doing, Melissa? How's your day going?
I'm great. How are you, Bash?
Doing great. So yeah, it's always good to talk to our fellow 49er fans. I know you're very active on the chats of different 49er podcasts, and you've actually done a lot of guest spots as of late. Go ahead and talk about all these guest spots that you've been doing, and let everybody know where to find you on Twitter. And I do have your Twitter link in the description of the video as well.
Okay, so my tag is right there on the screen. It's NJ49IZZY. I've been lucky enough the past 2 weeks to get to enjoy victory shots with Mike and Nothing But Niners, and get to talk with both Mike Andrews and NY to the Bay and Breezy and the likes for the last 2 weeks. And I've been co-hosting with Adam on Gina's channel, Driving to the Top, and getting to break down all the week's games, aside from Niner games, because those are Gina's territory. So it's fun to get to just talk normal NFL outside of the Niners community as well.
So how did it all begin? Because you're obviously not from California. Let everybody know where you're from and how you grew up and how you became a 49er fan, who may have influenced you.
Okay, so I'm from Jersey. And my father and uncle were Giants fans and Cowboy fans respectively, and they'd fight every holiday when we went to my aunt's house. So me and my brother decided real young that we didn't want to be Giants or Cowboys, so we both fell in love with teams with players that we thought were like out of this world superheroes at the time. So for him, it was Brett Favre and the Green Bay Packers. And for me, it was Steve Young and Jerry Rice, who I thought were like literally Superman and Batman just getting to play football on the field. So that's how I became a Niner fan.
So you didn't get to watch Montana. You started off with Steve Young, I take it.
I was born in '89, so it's not like Montana was like really available to watch if you were out of the West Coast. So like the first real like person that I got to see was Jerry and Steve.
There you go. So we got some people saying what's up in the chat. I'm gonna give them some love. Got Andy Land 27, long time no see. What's up? Happy y'all belated Thanksgiving. We appreciate it. Hope everybody enjoyed their Thanksgiving. We have Paul Hope says, what's up? How's it going, Paul? Niner Gang Podcast. Dion, what's up, man? Great to have you on in the chat. He always has fun with my chat. He always gives my chat props. I hope. I know he gives my chat high expectations, so I hope it doesn't let him down today. But
and hi to Joe Mahoney.
Oh yeah, Joey Mahoney's here. He says, "What's up?" But but what drew you into the 49ers? I mean, was it just watching Steve Young and Jerry Rice? Was that what it was? Because I mean, you're obviously all the way in New Jersey. It's kind of, and not that 49ers don't exist out there, but it's just, we're all the way on the opposite side of the country,
I mean, I didn't like really root for any of the local teams when I was a kid, aside from like the Devils and the Yankees, and that went down in spectacular fashion with me. Um, and then I guess after like the '90s craze with Michael Jordan, my brother tried to convince me to become a Nets fan. I was like, you know what? They're one of the like two only um, NBA teams that represent my state. And then of course they became the Brooklyn Nets, and they trade us by not only leaving Jersey but become Brooklyn, and they got rid of the blue and the red. So I stopped watching NBA, and I was never really into like Rutgers or anything local. Like I just went where my heart told me I had a like connection to.
Some people say like they become 49er fans because they like the way the colors and like the way the jerseys look. Did
No,
any of
it's just
that
like I
play a
fall in love
part?
with players. So like um John always talks about all his teams, like on Locker Room Rant. So he talks about his Guardians, his Buckeyes. He talks about all these little things that I hadn't really watched, but because they talk about it on there, I was like, should I really have a team? Like, should I have like some kind of opinion? Because they're like so adamant about covering everything, right? So I was like, okay, I have a Niners, I have my NFL team. Maybe I should start watching some of the stuff that they watch, just so I have something to say, or I understand what they're actually talking about. Um, so because of that, I decided to get into college football this year. So I started watching the Trojans just because I fell in love with Talanoa Hufanga last year. Like, so I was like, okay, USC, they got a new coach. Talanoa's from there, and then now they've only lost to Washington. They played Dame in like an hour, and I started rooting for Memphis because I fell in love with John Morant. It's just something really fun to watch with John Morant.
Well, we're rivals then because I'm a Warriors fan. So I was gonna say USC. Yeah, I remember you were telling me before we started streaming that you had these plans to watch USC and Notre Dame. I didn't know if you had a dog in the fight or not, but you were mentioning USC a few times. I was like, okay, a few times she's mentioned USC. Yeah,
It's
actually,
actually funny. Like
go
a
ahead.
couple like months ago, they decided to go live against USC. So when the Chromebook was working, I literally had like one app open to like Forever Faithful with Brandon and Christian and Dion, and I was watching that, and then at the same time I was watching USC on the computer. So like, because I can't choose between the two. I always got to represent my Niners High family.
Yeah,
And I know Dion, that pisses you off because you're a UCL fan.
Yeah, UCLA played Cal Berkeley today. Yesterday. I think UCLA won, if I'm not mistaken. I was watching the game. It was pretty close at one point. UCLA won towards the end, I believe. Corey Davis, what's up, Corey? He says, hello, 49er. My name is Melissa. I shared the video in 70 groups. Oh, wow. Wow, I really, really appreciate that. I shared the video on one group on Facebook and on my personal page, and here he is sharing in 70 groups, man. I really, really appreciate that. That's like a Christmas present for me, man. Yeah, I was gonna say, I forgot what I was gonna say. Oh, now I remember, because the whole USC thing is USC. I mean, you mentioned Talanoa Hufanga. They're like a safety factory for the NFL. Troy Polamalu came out from there. Our own Hall of Fame safety, Ronnie Lott. Tim McDonald, who won a Super Bowl with us, so with Steve Young, was also from there. So, yeah, man, we definitely have some history, and hopefully Talanoa Hufanga is the next great 49er safety to win a Super Bowl that comes out, or win multiple Super Bowls, hopefully, like Ronnie Lott did, that comes out of USC. That would be great. We got East Coast Red and Gold podcast. Says, what's up, Go Niners? And just definitely check out their YouTube channel.
Hi, Jess and Ty.
Oh, yeah, Ty Alston's awesome. Check out Niner Game Podcast as well on YouTube. That's Dion's channel. And you can also check out Corey. He does a show where he does like picks, where they do weekly NFL picks. So definitely check them out. Oh, yeah. So it's funny you mentioned USC, because when I used to be a big time college football fan, where I had loyalty to a team, I don't do that anymore. I'm kind of more just somebody who appreciates college football in general. I used to be a big UC Berkeley fan, Cal, and they hate USC. It's almost like every Pac-12 USC. And then when Pete Carroll was there and they had that whole scandal, and all that. But then again, they had Reggie Bush, and I did like Reggie Bush. So, And I've always appreciated certain players that came out of USC. And this year, we obviously drafted Drake Jackson, the pass rusher, and I had high hopes for him this year. He does look pretty good this year, but he's not like dominating right off the bat. But I think eventually he'll get things down, maybe probably in year 2 or year 3.
I
David
actually think that
McNew
was
is here.
smart
What's up, David?
smart about
Good.
D'Amico doing that, because it's been really like rough when they force these like first picks from teams to be that edge rusher full time, or at least try to be main starter, because you kind of see like the Chase Youngs and the Aiden Hutchinsons. They have like great games, but then they kind of like fall off or struggle a bit because they can't tell all the motions and everything. So I think it's smart for Drake Jackson to just get sprinkled in slowly, and that way he never has any like real bad tape, and he doesn't like start off with Niner fans booing him, and he just gets to come in, learn, and slowly develop. And it's nice that we had the luxury to do that with him.
And yeah, I mean, we're not forcing Drake Jackson in there to be the man, the guy. He's got plenty of them. We got plenty of guys up front on the D line that we'll talk about later in the Saints preview. Ty Olson says, "Oh, here's Ty right here." He says, "Bashar Melissa, it's officially a Saturday night
Hi,
party."
Ty.
And he's a New York 49er fan, not too far from you. And appreciate all these East Coast Niner fans that come out of the woodwork. Lou Ramos is here. He says, that's Get Him Boy. What's up, Get Him Boy? Shout out to him. Check out his Twitter channel. I don't mind doing the shout outs because Get Him Boy is amazing on Twitter. He does graphics for actually, if you look, my graphic is on the bottom left corner that Get Him Boy made. It's a picture of my face. The whole picture is actually I could put it as my background. Just a second, I'll do that because I cut out and just put my face, but I'll just put it as my regular background since he's here in the chat. But I kind of blocked my face. There you go. You got Brandon Ayuk. It's the Grand Theft Auto themed 49er theme.
Oh, I love those. Those are some
for
of
a
my
lot
favorites.
of 49er fans. And add Get Him Boy on Twitter. Check him out because he's an amazing graphical artist. And that's his work right behind me.
And he's an absolute sweetheart. He truly is one of the best, sweetest people in the world. Like, okay, so you know how he always has like the comics or the Grand Theft Auto or like these series that he does? So I was trying to represent one of my favorite players who I think gets trolled way too often. And Lou had this beautiful image where he took the press shots, the photo shoots they did before the year with the guys in their jerseys. And I cropped it for my border, but I was like, Lou, I really don't want you to be stolen from again, or people not know where it's from, or think that I'm trying to disrespect you by not having your tag on it. So I just asked him, could he add his tag to it, so that way I could tell people that it was really from him. And not only did he add his tag to it, but then he added the Shannon 2 bully season to it, and then he added my own tag to my border. So that's why my border is sponsoring all my favorite content creators, like the guys that make the gear and stuff for people, because I think what Lou does, what Robert does, and what Hodge does is like some of the best stuff in the world, and they're really, really amazing guys.
Oh yeah, I totally agree. And I was gonna say, Get Him Boy made that little graphical design of
Brandon Ayuk.
Brandon Ayuk, yeah, right next. But have you guys seen that on NFL games though? When oh, hang on, I gotta stop this spammer. I don't want to give him too much credit. But if you guys see that on NFL games when Brandon Ayuk scores a touchdown, they'll flash that cartoon picture of Brandon Ayuk on the screen. I was like, oh wait, didn't Get Him Boy make that? Like, damn, that's interesting. Panama Queen's here. Gotta say what's up to her. She says, my two favorite folks, Bash and Melissa. But yeah, I mean, let's go back to you, Melissa. So did you ever have any jerseys growing up of 49er players? Do you ever remember your first 49er jerseys perhaps that you ever had?
I've never actually owned a jersey. I was handed a jersey by my brother who rejected it. And then of course when he saw how much I loved it, he went and took it back. He's just spiteful that way. So the only jersey that I've ever owned for like any short amount of time was a Tiki Barber jersey that my dad bought as like a last ditch effort to make one of us a Giant fan. But I've ordered stuff, like I've ordered sweaters, I've ordered shirts. I had this one beloved shirt for a while there. I had to buy it on the San Francisco website, and it's like one of those ones where you have to pick the number and the name on the back, because they didn't have the actual player, which upset me greatly. So I wore this thing probably for 3 straight winners, to go to sleep, to go outside, everywhere, because I was just so in love with it. And I had it write Smith on the back, and then 94 because Justin Cowboy Smith was one of my absolute favorite players.
Justin Smith was an amazing player for the 49ers. I was going to say, since you're this a 49ers fan now / USC fan, you might as well get a Talanoa Hufanga shirt or jersey or something to represent your fandom for him.
If I ever get a jersey or I get one of those like giveaways where you get to pick it, I'm definitely going with Talanoa Hufanga.
Yeah, there you go. Cynthia's in the house. She said, stopping by to show some love, hit that like. We're all going to hit up Childs after the show. It's a big place. If you guys know who Childs is, you know what's up.
So who was your first jersey?
Oh, mine was Garrison Hurst. So Garrison Hurst was like, well, I was a big Ricky Waters fan, but I didn't have his jersey, but I was kind of mad when Ricky Waters left the Niners, obviously, to go to Philadelphia. And at that point, the 49ers had avoided running back. So when they got Garrison Hurst, it was like a big deal for me. And I loved Garrison Hurst in college because he played for Georgia. And he went to the Cardinals initially in the NFL, but once he went to the 49ers, like it was just a great thing for him, like to go with the Stoke organization, so Stoke franchise. But then my Garrison Hurst jersey wore off after time. It was one of those older Reebok jerseys, and they didn't do well in the washer and dryer. It kind of faded out.
No, you know the funny part was though, they fit well and they had that mesh to them, but the numbers always used to fade really quickly, especially in the front on the Reebok jerseys. That's what the Tiki Barber one was.
Yeah, it was the Reebok screen printer ones. It was really nice and comfortable, and it was great while it lasted, but over time they didn't last. I'm gonna say what's up to Aaron for 49ers First Takes. He says, "What's up, Bash?" His comment is on the screen. He has a great channel with a lot of great guests, and we have a lot of fun on there every Monday. From time to time, we do the NWO podcast, the Niner World Order podcast on there, and it's me, him, Niner Sickness, and Ryan, and we just have a lot of fun on there. Oh, Perk Dog's here. Okay, cool. What up, Perk Dog? Says, yeah, rip that shit. Good to see him. What's happening? Big time Niner fan on Twitter if you know who he is. And there he is right there. He has another Soul Reaper, I think is his other name. I don't know. He has 2 nicknames. I don't know what the difference is, or what he prefers, but that's the guy right there. Big Niner fan. He's somewhere in the South. Is he from the South? I think he lives somewhere in the South. I know he's
one of those really awesome people. He'll like have your back. And then when I got really upset last year about the Nick Bosa choke holding thing, he's like one of those few people I could talk to about it and not seem like a lunatic. And then he shared my posts about it because it's just, to this day, it baffles me that Nick Bosa is choke held in a league that supposedly cares about concussions and head injuries and all this other stuff, and they just let it go every single game.
Yeah, it'd be nice if you'd see a holding call called against whoever's playing against Bosa, because they do it. They seem to do it a lot. Now it's almost like ever since that Chiefs Super Bowl, that stupid tackle on the Chiefs.
No, they've been like doing that since the Buccaneers game. They said that was like the first time ever.
They found the recipe to stop Bosa.
They had at least 2 guys chipping a player. Like they'd never done that for a rookie defensive edge before. That like blew my mind.
Like these teams like know that, hey, we can just chokehold Bosa and no ref is ever going to throw a flag on it. So let's just do it until they throw the flag. It's kind of annoying that way. So have you ever attended any NFL games? Obviously, you live really far from when the Niners played, but have you ever had a chance to just go to an NFL game, period? Or
no, I have been though to MetLife. So when they had the open practices, my dad brought all of us there to go see Odell Beckham while he was still there to go, practice and stuff. And I think that was the last game that they were allowed to have practices where they actually got signatures, because there was like the Uber fans, the ones that like buy like 50 to 60 jerseys and then try to get all the signatures so they can sell them on eBay. Then this past year, my dad wanted to do something special for the draft, so he got us tickets to MetLife to see the Jets and Giants picks at MetLife Stadium. So we actually got to like walk on the field and sit in the seats and everything. I kid you not, 2 years later, after they put that turf in, it is the hardest thing I've ever had to walk on in my entire life.
Oh, really? Interesting. You mentioned OBJ, Odell Beckham Jr., and I know that a lot of the 49er fans had interest in him possibly. This is an annual thing, by the way. I mean, we're talking about since 2000. Actually, a lot of 49er fans wanted us to draft him, and I was one of them, actually. But it seems like every year there's this whole thing, maybe from 2018 onwards, of the 49ers are going to try to trade for Odell Beckham Jr. Or if he's a free agent, the 49ers are going to try to sign Odell Beckham Jr. And year in and year out, it's a headline. And some Niner fans just like take it and they get all excited about it, like they get all hyped up about it. I'm not no longer one of those guys. I've jumped off that train quite some time, and I personally think this year we obviously don't need him. But if we were to have him, I'm not going to welcome. I'm not going to say no to a good player that makes us more talented. But at the same time, is I don't think we need to spend a whole lot of money for the guy either. And there was some recent article that came out today. It looks like the 49ers aren't going to get him because he didn't have us on his list of teams. I didn't even bother to look at what his list of teams was, but and I know Debo tweeted something
La-
about something that I don't want to recruit
okay,
players or something.
so last I heard, it was mostly the Cowboys who are like uber honing in on him. He's taking a meeting with the Giants, which a lot of people think is just to, get the Cowboys to pay him what he wants. And then he left Buffalo on his list, I believe. So those are the three teams right now.
Okay, there you go. Let's say what's up to Niner Sickness podcast.
Hi,
Subscribe
Betta.
to his YouTube channel. He had a whole bunch of subscribers on his initial YouTube channel, so definitely check out his YouTube channel and subscribe to it. Feel free to drop the link in the channel. I can pin the link to your channel on Beto if you want to do that. Go ahead to gain more subscribers because you need them since your old channel is gone.
As for bringing Beckham here, I don't want that actually. I was probably one of the first people who wanted him out when he was leaving New York, and then when he was leaving Cleveland. But I know this is gonna be weird to say, and I really don't want to jinx it because of who's injured right now. But I feel like we're kind of stacked at the wide receiver position, which is like a weird thing for Niners because I feel like ever since forever, like it feels like you can barely have one healthy receiver, let alone two or more that are like dominant. Um, but my concern is mostly for the defense because it just feels like everyone's cursed on our defense right now. If we were to do another signing.
Yeah, I'm not worried about trying to get another receiver for this team. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think it would be cool to have him, but then you run the risk of him. Is he going to demand the ball all the damn time? And we have so many weapons that we have to spread the ball around to, and all that.
Plus,
So
you don't want to be the team where he tries to like have a comeback, and then it's like Jerick McKinnon where they can't stay healthy, and you don't want to be the team where he's coming off a double ACL tear on the same knee, and then he gets hurt again, and then it's like you're the team that kind of cursed this beloved player who did the electric one-handed catch that they compare every one-handed catch to now. So it's just like I wish him well. I really hope he doesn't become a Cowboy because I can't stand the Cowboys, but I don't
I'm
see
not
the
worried about him being
need
on the
for it.
Cowboys. I'm not worried about him being on any team. To
No,
be
no,
honest,
I'm not worried
it
about
doesn't
him being
scare
a
it doesn't
Cowboy. I
scare
just don't
me.
want to see it because it's just going to be like one of those storylines that you never get to escape. It's like everyone with Michael Parsons right now, where they're trying to make him like the new LT or the newest greatest everything that's ever happened to the league. It's like they forget everyone else's sack totals that are better than him. They forget what everyone else has done in the league. It's just like Micah Parsons because he has that star. He just is everything to the
Yeah.
national media, and it's really obnoxious at this point. So.
Yeah, if you wear that cowboy logo and that cowboy jersey, your stock is just automatically elevated throughout the media.
Yeah.
You're one of Jerry's boys. What up, 49er throwback? He's here. He's in the house, and
Hi,
yeah,
Fernando.
it's annoying. And Beckham's to me, he's lost his luster. I mean, obviously, he's coming off an injury. He's just not the same guy. Sure, he could probably do some things well that some of our guys maybe can't do as well in certain aspects, but I'm not losing any sleep over Beckham. And even when way before he put that list out or whatever, I just had
Yeah.
a feeling we weren't going to get him. And just because he's not the same player that he used to be, and sure he won a Super Bowl with the Rams, but how much did he really do to contribute?
Yeah, I'm not touching that with a fly football.
Yeah. All right. So since you didn't, you never met any NFL players before, I take it then, because you probably never met
I
any Niner
actually
players.
have.
Oh, you have? Okay.
I have. So, there's this Marriott here in Saddlebrook. My grandfather used to stay at it when he was alive, and when he came to visit us here in Jersey. And one night we were eating dinner there, and guess who just happened to be in town that day? Tony Dungy, and I actually got to have his signature because my brother wanted it. And I went over to him and asked him politely at the end of his meal. My brother wanted his signature because he was like the first black coach ever to win a Super Bowl, I believe. be wrong. But he was like a big fan of his because it was Dundee versus Lovie Smith in that Super Bowl. And so I got that for him. And then when we were younger, my father is a huge Giants fan. So when we were in West Patterson, he went to a gym and they had Kiki as one of the clients, right? So my brother and I have this photograph, which is over here on my wall. And he wrote, to Brian and Melissa, love Tiki Barber, and then it has his number 21 on it. I got the photo when my brother took the jersey back, and then my family, this is really weird. We have a connection to the Sims family. So my cousin Keith went to Ramapo, and his best friend at the time was Chris Sims. And he actually when he went to college at like FSU, when he went for his law degree, Chris was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers backup quarterback, I think, at the time. So my cousin got to go down there, and Chris Sims took him around the locker room. And then my brother, when he went to high school, went to school with Matt Sims at Don Bosco. And then this past year, when we were at the draft thing, I met Dexter Lawrence and got to take a photo with him.
Oh, okay, cool. So since you live in New Jersey, I never get to ask this question, but I feel like it's an appropriate question to ask. Yeah. Since you don't really probably know too many 49er fans out where you live. And my obvious assumption is that you're probably surrounded by New York Giants and New York Jets fans. Which fans do you tolerate the least? Who are the most annoying fans out of those two fans?
Okay. I'm gonna be nice.
And if you are somebody who meets a lot of Eagles fans, you can throw them into the pot as well. I don't know how far you are from Eagles fans.
So I'm lucky. Mike Andrews is more towards Philly from where he grew up, because that's more like a South Jersey thing, not a North Jersey thing, and I've always been North Jersey. So for me, it's mostly Jets, Giants. You get the sporadic Cowboys, Packers, Steelers, like all the random stuff, but like mostly just Jets and Giants because we live so close to MetLife. So for me, the worst team ever, especially because I live with, or I have lived with someone from that fan base, is the Giants. And it's because they are so obnoxious. They have won a Super Bowl in every single decade since the 80s. They constantly whine about tough times or not having a quarterback or not having this or how much they suck recently. And my dad loved that 2011 championship in my face so much. That was Eli Manning, and then he laughed when we had to sign Jacobs and Manahan to those ridiculous contracts after they won the Super Bowl, and
they did nothing for us.
Exactly,
especially Jacob.
And then he always gets mad at me because he always says, "Well, your Niners took out Phil Simms, so that's why I can't ever root for them." So that's why every year that I've been in the playoffs, aside from the 1 year I wasn't actually in the state to watch the team live because I was on a vacation with my best friend at the time at Disney, he's always rooting against the Niners. So he roots for the Ravens, he'll root for the Seahawks, he'll root for the Chiefs, the Packers, even the Cowboys. This is a Giants fan who will root for the Cowboys because they're facing the Niners in the playoffs. So I have to give it to the Giants just because they're really whiny and they've won so many Super Bowls as of late. And yet they always act like they're the most unfortunate franchise in the world. But it's like, you've gotten 4 in like the last 4 decades. Like
the last 2 were so unexpected. And they won the most unexpected Super Bowls ever from like the teams that you would never expect them to ever want to be in the running to win
the Patriots both times.
Yeah, and it was against the Patriots out of all teams both times. And Eli Manning, who I thought was one of the most overrated quarterbacks ever, freaking beats Brady twice. It doesn't make any sense when you say it. It doesn't even sound right. It just doesn't.
It sounds weird. I know.
I was at that stupid Kyle Williams game too, so it's even worse for me. All right, so since you're from Jersey, you gotta tell me. So if I think one time you told me you don't eat pizza anymore, but assuming you still do eat pizza, if somebody flies into Jersey and I'm gonna be, and let's just say they go to New York too, what are the 2 best places to go eat pizza at? One in Jersey, one in New York.
Okay, so the best pizza in Jersey would probably be Dominic's and Totowa. I love their pizza because they used to make this Sicilian pie that would be like the perfect square, right? And they used to make it cheeseless, so it would be like olive oil and tomato sauce, and it had like the fluffiest actual crust back then, but then it always had like the nicely crispy bottom, so it didn't like fall apart on you. And that was like one of my go-to like cheats of all cheats when I was younger. And then in New York, I haven't really been to New York much, but I would probably say like somewhere like in Little Italy or one of those like lower places that people really don't know about, because from what I hear, the worst mistake you can do when you go to the city is go to a chain. You got to go to a place that the locals go to.
Got it. Okay, so how about this? What was your? I'm sure you had probably had a lot of fun watching that Monday night game against the Cardinals. And before we get into the Saints game, what was probably the biggest thing that you took away from that Cardinals game, or the thing that you liked the most, or whatever?
George Kittle. This first ever 2 touchdown game ever. It was going back to that whole toxic energy around George Kittle where he hadn't had a touchdown in the Chargers game, so like people were giving him crap about how he's not Kelsey enough, he's not Andrews enough, he's not Waller enough, he's not dominant enough to be a top tight end. And they were comparing him like the Austin Hoopers and the Hunter Henrys and like other guys who are like less known names. And then they're like saying, well, he has to be assertive more, he has to force it more. And it's just like, that's not who he really is. And then it made me so happy when he went to the presser for like the Mexican game. He's like, I've been asking Jimmy for weeks, being like, dude, I'm wide open. I'm waving my hands at you. Please get me the ball. And then he finally does, and he has 2 touchdowns, which is like a big deal for him because he's never had that before, even in his 2018 dominant year. And so that was what was truly special to me as a George Kittle fan.
Yeah, I didn't even know that he never had a 2 touchdown game, but I always knew in general that as great as a player as Kittle is, regardless of what amazing season that he had, he just
Mm-hmm.
has never been this red zone guy. And not that I don't think
Yeah, it
he's
was
capable of it, but we
I
just don't
think
really use him much in the red zone. I think we should though.
2 years ago or 3 years ago where he was injured and Ross Dolly had that 2 touchdown game, and that was always like a big deal because like if George got a touchdown, Ross always be or the Ross fans would always be like, well, he's gotten 2 touchdowns in a game. George has never done that. And then they were like, well, at least he got his 2 touchdowns versus the Cardinals. So now that George has done it in Mexico on international in prime time in a huge game, that makes it a little bit more sweet.
Maybe they should. I don't know who the wrestler was because I don't really watch wrestling anymore, but I used to back in the day. And I'm all about wrestling nostalgia because I had that Randy Savage intro or whatever. But maybe
Yeah,
they should have that AEW wrestler, that one Mexican wrestler.
they did.
Well, I mean, maybe they should do like a weekly thing because for whatever reason it worked. You know, we finally saw Kittle get those 2 huge, and they weren't just regular touchdowns with like a 5-yard touchdown catch here and there. They were the Kittle plays from 2019, the explosive ones that we saw, and like similar to the Kittle plays when he broke that record back in 2017. So I want to see more of that
2018.
from Kittle. But what was it? I thought it was 2017 when
17
was
was
it?
his rookie year.
Oh
2018
yeah,
is when he broke
2018.
the
Yeah, when
record with
Jimmy got
the
hurt. When Jimmy got hurt. Yeah. Yep. You're right. Because that was when Mullins had all those yards, and yeah, and the Kittle just had a really, really good season, but it was all for nothing
which
because we we
in
didn't
my
do anything.
opinion makes it a little bit like more special because when he broke the record, it was the same day that Gronkowski and Kelsey had both broken the record that day earlier in the day. And then George broke it a third time that day. And it was against the Rams. And yes, it turned out to be a loss, but that was like a really huge thing that he did it with not only Jimmy, then he did it with Nick, and he did it with CJ. While
Great
not
point,
being
Joey.
a red
Uh,
zone dude.
Yeah, I got you. Joey says Kittle last year it's 101 yards in Seattle. He did. Was it 2 touchdowns in Seattle? Okay. He says 2 touchdowns. Um, Unfortunately, we lost that game. I don't know how we. That was one of those games where I was just like, "Oh,
I
we really
love
have to lose this."
that tightrope one that he did was
Yeah, that was really, really nice.
so
That was really nice.
badass.
And the thing is, you mentioned Kittle in terms of comparing him to other great tight ends that get a lot of publicity. Obviously, Kelsey's the main one. I'm sorry, Kelsey's nowhere near the blocker that Kittle is. And just imagine what kind of numbers that Kittle would be putting up if Patrick Mahomes or somebody of a similar caliber was his QB, you know?
See, I'm different from most fans because most fans read stats or they read the big plays and that's what they fall in love with and that's what they want to see. So most fans love a Kelsey or a Mark Andrews that get constant touchdowns, constant big plays, constant big hype things that they can talk about that's easy to show off to other fan bases. For me, I like the guys who are more ground and pound kind of unsung heroes. So that's why for this year, even when everyone turned on him, I was still a diehard Dre Greenlaw fan because I was like, this is like the one guy who does not fear our division. He always steps up big against the Rams or the Seahawks, and like the Hawks were like the nightmare boogeyman for everyone that was a Niner. Um, and he had no fear. He didn't see Russell Wilson as like this thing that he should be afraid of. He always bounced back. He always shows up in the big divisional games. And I know he's very undisciplined at times, and I've said that multiple times, but I just really love those unsung heroes like Kerry Hyder when he had 8.5 sacks in 2020. And there wasn't really much to enjoy on defense back then, but he was like one of those big names that like kind of made Niners games fun to watch. Like the Javon Kinlaws, the Jordan Willis's, the Kevin Givens, the Tavarius Moores, the Jim Moore, Andrew Taylor's, like, so those are kind of like my guys. Like I like the underdog guys.
I got you. And sometimes stats don't mean everything. I totally with you on that. Lou Ramos, who's the Get 'em Boy guy, says so impressed with Mel's memory. Get 'em girl. Yeah. She's bringing up stuff that I didn't know that. I totally forgot about the whole thing where on the day he broke the record, other guys broke the record on the same day. Joey says Greenlaw is really good, but he needs to be more disciplined. Oh yeah, he's aggressive, which I like, and he's definitely involved. We just need to see him be a little smarter. That's all.
He's gotten better about his tackling, but he's still sometimes because he comes off an injury or he sees where the discrepancies are on the scoreboard. So a few times he's gotten better about it since he extended his contract here. A few times he's very ungap disciplined, which is why I had no issue with Fred Warner calling him out last year after the Detroit game, because it's just like you got to stay in your gap, and then they're not going to run on team as well. And then he always left the gap trying to get the big play. So
yes, I totally understand. So we do have a game to talk about in just a second. Before we do that, I'm going to say what's up to Snapman, Mr. Snapple Facts himself from Twitter. We got Celts Chronicles. Check out his YouTube channel.
Hi, Rich.
Faithful Rise Up, Celts. There's so many layers to this. That's my impersonation of Celts for those who got it at home. This guy's celebrating the Lakers. I don't know. What did the Lakers do today? I don't know. Include me in sickness. Okay. Corey's got a question in the chat. We're going to talk about the Saints game now. So obviously we're playing the New Orleans Saints. They no longer have Drew Brees, but Corey wants to know who is the first player that's going to score the 49ers first touchdown. I'll just throw out a wild guess. I think it's going to be Christian McCaffrey. Snapman agrees with me. I'm with you. How about you, Melissa?
I think it's either going to be Elijah Mitchell or Brandon Ayuk. I think they want to use Elijah and CMC in different halves, which has kind of been what they've been doing. So I think this time, I think Elijah might be the first back, and then CMC is the closer. Whereas in last week, Elijah was the one in the second half, and then CMC was more featured in the first half.
It's going to be interesting to see how Shanahan does it. Sometimes he just likes to stick with a hot hand, which I have zero problem with. I don't have any preference in terms of who's, in terms of which running backs on the field, because they're both pretty nice. And
no, but I like that it feels like 2019 again, where you have enough elite talent at the running back squad, so you don't have to run anybody into the ground anymore.
Yeah, it's nice. And it's funny because we have TDP, but we haven't really seen much of him yet. He's been active for a few games. He's got a couple of carries here and there. And then some 49er fans are still dying to see Jordan Mason out there. But ever since we got CMC, especially we have Elijah Mitchell anymore, I'm like, okay, I can care. I'm not saying I can care less if I see Jordan Mason out there, but I'm not going to scratch and claw and get all mad if he doesn't get any carries in the games like other Niner fans do, because we have two pretty amazing running backs. We're obviously better than them. They did actually activate Jordan Mason last game over TDP because they like him. They like Jordan Mason better on special teams, pretty much.
Yeah.
And Sentinel says is TDP injured? He's not injured. No, he's not injured. And as far as injuries go, I believe Debo Samuel is questionable. I'm not sure what his exact injury is. Eric
Hamstring again.
Armstead, hamstring. Yeah, it's always a hamstring with them. That's what's going to be my guess. Eric Armstead is questionable, and so yeah. So we'll see if yeah, I'm not sure. So we'll see if any of those guys play. Probably Debo plays. Be nice to see Armstead come back. I totally would like that. But as far as the Saints go, I mean, they don't have Drew Brees at quarterback anymore. It's Andy Dalton, who who you think you'd assume the guy was done. I thought he was done, but hey, he didn't look too bad against the Rams last week. And he threw 3 touchdowns against the Rams. So I'm not sure. That's saying. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm not trying to sound petty, but it's the Rams right now. I mean, Stafford got hurt in that game. Cooper Kupp is out of that game. Aaron Donald and Ramsey are not the same without Von Miller in between the two of them. It's not the same Rams.
Especially Cooper Kupp was pretty much like, you can make the argument he's like 60% of their offense, pretty much. I mean, he's like the guy that makes that team run, pretty much. We got Fazil says we got to beat the Saints. What's up, Fazil? Yeah, definitely. We definitely got to beat the Saints. I mean, so they do have Chris Olave, who is arguably one of the best rookie wide receivers in the NFL. Coming out of Ohio State, he played with Justin Fields. So when they were talking a whole lot about Justin Fields when he was coming out, I was definitely paying attention to Chris Olave in college. All 6'1", 188 pounds of him. He's not a big imposing guy, but ran like a 4.38 40, and he's definitely got good game speed. He's got about 51 catches right now for 760 yards, 14.9 a catch. Saints don't have Michael Thomas. He's been out, I believe, since week 3 or so. So we don't have to worry about him. Jarvis Landry's on the roster, but he's kind of like an afterthought. He's only got about 230 yards. And then we always got to worry about Alvin Kamara out of the backfield. So he's got about 385 yards. What do you think about the Rams, about the Saints on offense, though?
I worry about penalties more on our defense than the Saint players, because I think one of our issues on and off has been getting to 3 and outs, and then somebody has some stupid penalty on 3rd down, whether it's holding or it's Bosa having those pre-snap penalties, and then the drives just keep going and going and going and going, and so it's like those 15-yard penalties. So no disrespect to the actual Saints, but for me, I'm more worried about the defense doing stupid stuff than I am about the offensive weapons the Saints have currently. Not to say that Chris Olave isn't scary and that he shouldn't be taken seriously, just like Kamara or Taysom Hill shouldn't be taken seriously, but it's just one of those games where I think the defense is scarier for me on the Saints than their offense is. Just because I never not take Cam Jordan seriously.
Yeah, as far as defensively, I'm not really too worried about the penalties. I just think they've kind of cleaned things up a little bit more so than they did in other games as of late. What does kind of scare me though, and we are the best team in the league currently in stopping the run, even despite the fact that Kinlaw is never in the lineup and Armstead has missed a ton of games, and we're still the best run stopping team in the NFL. We only give up 81 yards per game, 3.4 yards a carry, which is really, really nice. But our Achilles heel with our defense is quarterbacks who are mobile. Obviously, Andy Dalton is not mobile, but I wouldn't be surprised if they throw Taysom Hill in there in certain packages for him to run out of the quarterback position, because he's been putting up yards in terms of running for the Saints. He's got 396 yards, 7.6 a carry, and things are just wide open for quarterbacks to run on us for whatever reason.
And the other thing that scares me about the defense is Jimmy Ward at nickel, because he looks so unhappy, so miserable, and so out of his depth that I worry about putting him at safety because Deshaun Gibson's kind of on a roll. Whether you think that we can improve at the position or not, him and Lufunga have had a really good chemistry this year. But I don't like what they're doing at nickel. I wish they would just give somebody an opportunity and let them kind of figure it out the way they stuck with Deommodore Lenoir after Emmanuel Mosley's injury. They tried switching it out every once in a while. And then they were like, Lenore's just the best option, so we're gonna let him grow into the position. And I think he's doing really well on the outside, even though I think he's better at nickel. But yeah, I don't understand this weird thing where they just don't want to give these positions like full time to somebody.
Yeah, I mean, I do like Gibson. Maybe they can find a way to mix both of them in at safety from time to time. I'm not sure what D'Amico Ryans has in mind. But overall, I think the DBs are doing a good job. I mean,
Yeah.
we're seventh in the league against the pass. So, I mean, we're doing something right?
It's nice where everyone's not like saying we have to sign this corner or this corner and this corner every like 2 games. It feels like a little weird to like be so um stacked at that position after so many years where we struggled at that position to keep anybody healthy.
Yeah, I think it's funny because certain 49er fans are just really stuck on trying to sign whatever big name guy here, big name guy there. But for some reason, we still find ways to work, even though we may not always have big name players at certain
Yeah.
positions. So it doesn't really worry me too much. David
Okay, so
Evans, go ahead.
I gotta ask you, what's the one that always infuriated you the most? Because for me, it was Antonio Brown. Like I never understood the people who wanted to sign Antonio Brown.
I mean, I liked him in terms of talent, but I wasn't one of those guys that was jumping up and down screaming for him to come here either. I was just like whatever about it, But certain people where they were like, "Oh, let's get him. It's not going to be cost us too much," and I kept thinking it would probably cost us a lot, and I'm glad we didn't bother. David Evanson's here from Real Time Niner Talk. He's been on the show before.
Hi,
Says what's
Dave.
good, everyone. Kelt says I like the background, Bashar on Clean Beanie. I switched up my background a lot. I definitely put this one up because Get 'em Boy made this. It's the Grand Theft Auto background with my face on it, and Levi's in the background, and Brandon Ayuk, and so I definitely had to put this one up. I actually use it on the bottom of the screen. If you notice that I got my face right there, that's the one that he made. He was up in the chat. Not sure if he still is, but he says, let's make it 4 in a row tomorrow. Yeah, let's do it. Hey, we've been on a good roll as of late against the Saints. I mean, on paper, everything looks great. We have a strong defense.
Mhm.
They don't stop the run properly, and our forte is running the ball. Obviously,
Yeah.
we have one of the stronger running games in the NFL. So obviously CMC, Mitchell, sometimes Debo, and see what's going on. See what we can do to the Saints.
Okay, so there's been a streak lately of two things, and I want to ask you, what do you think is more likely on tomorrow? So, do you think the second half shutout continues next tomorrow, or do you think Jimmy doesn't have any stupid turnovers? Like, if there's one that you have more faith in.
It's funny because whenever everybody brings this up about Jimmy, he just obviously messes it up, and everybody jinxes him. But let's just say this: the Saints, believe it or not, they've only had 2 interceptions the whole season, and
Mhm.
they're both of them are from Tyrann Mathieu. That's it. So Jimmy would really, really have to mess this up and be stupid and I'm not even, people say I'm mean about Jimmy and I disrespect him and I'm a jerk and whatever. I just comment on the plays that I've seen, and lately he's been playing mistake-free football, which is what game managing quarterbacks are supposed to do.
Yeah.
And he's spoiled with the most weapons, arguably the most weapons of anybody in the league right now. So I mean, he shouldn't be making mistakes, and he should be scoring 3 to 4 touchdowns from time to time, and they shouldn't act like it's a huge big deal because he's got the best weapons out there. He's got amazing running backs and great receiver, good receivers, a great tight end. So why not? But yeah, I think the defense should definitely hold up the shutout in the second half. I'd love to see that. I definitely think it's a strong possibility. I mean, it's just nice to see this defense. Despite the fact that certain people were in and out of the lineup from time to time, and we
Mhm.
miss Mosley. Obviously, we miss Mosley. I mean, if Mosley was in the lineup, we'd probably have the first or second best pass defense in the NFL. We're still at number 7, which isn't too bad. But yeah, I think we do shut them out in the second
Okay,
half. That
and,
is.
and my other question about tomorrow is who gives you more pause, McGlinchey or Brendel? Because I know a lot of people have more issue with one than the other.
I'm more worried about McGlinchey because the Saints do have some decent pass rushers. The Mario
Mhm.
Davis racks up a lot of sacks at the linebacker position. Um, you know, Davenport's not impressive actually. He's not really what I'm worried about. Cameron Jordan isn't
Mhm.
bad, And yeah, I'm more worried about McGlinchey than anything else. And even though Brendel's like undersized, he's an undersized type player. They don't the Saints don't really have anybody in the middle that I'm really too worried about. I'm not really worried about any strong, the bruising defensive tackle up the middle for Brendel. If they did, then would be worried because Brendel is an undersized player, Yeah, and hey, McGlinchey, I ragged on him a lot, and a lot of other people rag on him. He actually had a good game this past week. Do I expect him to do it this time around? I don't know. But to our surprise, the 49ers don't give up that many sacks in comparison to other teams. I actually pulled it up, and not sure if I wrote it down, but yeah, I think we're either in the top 10 of least sacks allowed, something like that. So we don't really get that many sacks. Now, again, we don't throw the ball as much, but for the most part, the offensive line has stepped up as a unit. The offensive line has been one of the bright spots of the team, and especially in terms of an unexpected bright spot. I mean, we expected the offensive line to be arguably the worst in the league after certain things that we saw in the preseason, and the way McGlinchey gets ragged on or whatever. But the offensive line is doing what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, I know you're talking about that Texans game that everyone still won't let go of.
Oh yeah, that Texans preseason game. Yeah, when it happened, I was thinking. I obviously thought that it won't get any worse than this. This is the worst that we see. I just thought that things could only get better, and the good thing I was right.
See, the thing that always made me laugh about that was these guys hadn't played together at all because they kept like putting Brunskill in at center, or they kept switching the tackles and guards because they were trying to figure out who had the potential to actually start, and then who had the potential to be like a backup, and then there's like a couple guys I never understood, like Sutherland getting so many snaps, but I think it's astounding that even though two people are so aligned with the fan base that we were all worried because there'd be four new offensive linemen, whether you thought it was going to be Trey or Jimmy or whatever you wanted to see. And the very fact that it's down to two people that are just like the problem children or like have bad games here or there, I think that's a really remarkable thing. The way that, past the first 3 weeks, they finally started to gel and get used to each other. And personally, for me, I'm kind of sick of the Burford Brunskill thing. I think I'd rather see Brunskill rotated at right tackle because I think he's better at tackle than guard. And I think Burford just needs to be in there more often. That way it'll help out with McGlinchey because I think McGlinchey is an issue. But I think it's really impressive what they've been able to do this year, especially Aaron Banks, who's stepped up.
Yeah. Fazil says that we got to watch they blitz a lot, and Amaro Davis, he's good. Cam Jordan and Marcus Davenport. Yeah, Cam Jordan and Davenport, you can't forget about those guys on the edge. But you'd be surprised. I looked it up, and the Saints do have 32 sacks, which is really good, but they only blitz 19% of the time, and they do have a 24.7 pressure rate. So it will be a strong test for the offensive line in terms of the passing game, and hopefully we'll be running the ball and controlling the ball a whole lot, with our two running backs. And you never know, maybe the Jordan Mason fans will finally get to see their guy get some carries since they're so thirsty for him. And they want to see him out there.
I just want to see a blowout. I am so done with the Saints. I need to get a blowout. No more ejections, no more big tackles that get like to be these big controversial things that we all have to put up with. I just want a complete bleak down where I don't have to hear the Saints anymore because to this day I will never be able to let go of what happened with Ahmad Brooks and Katavius Street.
Oh yeah, I got you on that one. It's funny because the Saints have Paulson Adebo, who's supposedly a good prospect at cornerback, and they have Marcus Lattimore, who's this big name cornerback, and Tyrann Matthews in that secondary. But you never know. Maybe we get some big plays to the wide receivers in this game, so on some play action, perhaps, since we'll force the ball down their throats. We'll try to at least with the run game. But the Saints give up 109. So the passing rating against the Saints wide receivers this season is 109, which is terrible. Which means that we should be, the wide receivers should be making big plays against his secondary. So maybe Ayuk and Debo get some big touchdowns. Maybe we get to see Joey's guy, Danny Gray, in the mix. He's always talking about Danny Gray so much. He mentioned him earlier in the chat. So we'll see, man. I'd love to see a blowout too. This game tells me certain things. At least looking at things on paper as far as the matchup goes, that we might be able to have our way with this team. Let me say what's up to Ted Talks Football. He says Saints got healthy this week, so they are healthy. We've been playing a lot. People have to take this into account. We have been winning over the past few weeks, but we have been playing teams that aren't necessarily healthy either. So we have to take that into account. And we got Randy Daytona says Saints equal. You put a little poop emoji there. So there you go. And Joey says, finally, I mentioned Danny Gray. I meant to do it earlier. Sorry. I mentioned it today. I mentioned it just now. I mean, so, we have, and it's funny because a lot of people, I want to throw this in there really, really quick. Let's do our score predictions for the game. I pretty much see the 49ers having the upper hand in this game. I say 31-17. Well, what are you saying?
I was saying 41-10.
Okay, even bigger. I would love to see us put 41 points on this team. That'd be awesome. That'd be a lot of fun to watch. We'll see. Obviously, the game's at home. My sister's going, and her husband are going to the game, and I know a lot of people are going to the game as usual. And Saints are 15th in scoring. They put up 22.6 a game, but they also give up about 24 points a game too. And so we'll see. Maybe this is the game that we actually do put up a whole lot of points. That'd be nice. And we got some predictions in the chat. We got Damian Lee says 27-13. We got Fazil says 27-17. Niner Sickness says 34-0. Okay, Ted Talks Ball says 24-20. Okay, he thinks it's gonna be a close one. Okay, all right, I got you. 31-20 from Joey Mahoney, similar to my prediction, very close. And Melissa, you're off camera for about. Wait till you get back on camera and ask you this other question.
My battery's dying, so I have to move the phone over to the charger. It doesn't extend.
Okay.
That's why I turned the camera off.
Okay. Once you jump on, and if anybody else has any predictions, feel free to drop them. Oh, we got Randy Daytona says 28-23. That's another close one. Sydney Williams, welcome to the show. Never seen you before, but it says 28-13. Saints. Okay, we got a Saints fan in the house. I want to hear what makes you think that. We're biased World Niner fans, huh? But again, I just think we're the better team, and we've proved it over these past few weeks. We've been playing. We've lost some games. You could make the argument that the Chiefs game would have been a loss anyway. You slice it, but other than that Chiefs game, what game did you really think that we should have lost out of all of our losses? Is what I'm saying. This team has underperformed a lot during this season.
You mean before the year, or just?
I'm saying this 49er team in general has underperformed in certain games. I mean, minus the Chiefs game. I think we should have won all those other games. But Sydney Williams does say they do have starters coming back. I see that right there. Okay, Sydney Williams is a big Saints fan.
Okay, so
go ahead.
The team that I thought we should have beaten and shouldn't have lost to was the Broncos, because it was a low-scoring game, and I honestly believe things could have been as bad as they were. If Jimmy didn't get the stupid pick 8, we would have won that game, because we lost by 8 points.
Yeah, Jimmy pretty much gave him the game. The defense was just so dominant. I mean, any other quarterback in the league that had the ball punted to their offense on that many times would have put up way more points than what Jimmy did. Jimmy was terrible that game. And if you're a Jimmy G fan and that offends you, I'm sorry. Actually, I'm not sorry. You're gonna have to take. You're gonna have to take the bumps and bruises.
They made up a new term for that.
They're talking about Jimmy he's. Some of them believe that Jimmy should be signed on for the next 10 years, and I'm not even joking about that. That was my next topic, by the way. That was my next topic.
Steve Young turned that up with the whole sign him for 10 years thing. I don't know what the hell Steve and Joe have been smoking, but
Steve Young's usually spot on with his quarterback talk too. Usually he's really, really good. That's gotta be the dumbest thing he's ever said.
Yeah, but it's just like, you understand that Mile High is up in the air, right? You always understand that things are a bit more difficult there because just guys aren't used to that. I even understood that it wasn't the easy breezy Seattle game anymore, where it was going to be all Jimmy. So I knew it was going to be a struggle, but I didn't think it was going to be so blatantly Jimmy screwing things up that. You know what? The defense showed up too. That's what killed me. Was like, so easily you could have won it, and then you just had that one stupid safety, and then you had another safety against the Chiefs, and it's just like, I never understood those plays. And then it was only like he just had his heel out, but he had his entire feet out, and he kept running down the white line like he was Dan Orlovsky or something. Like,
he has a history of laughable highlights.
And people were like "Oh, you're just being a hater. You're anti-Jimmy." I'm like, "You know what? I'm gonna finally own it, and I'm gonna say I'm anti-Jimmy because I currently am. You know, I don't believe in him. I don't trust him. I didn't like that he was signed here. I didn't like that we were giving him guaranteed money again, and I just push comes to shove, I'm so sick of him getting people hurt or getting hated by the fan base because they don't want to go up for his hospital balls or they don't want to like lunge out where they have to like twist their bodies into like pretzels and
Yeah,
you know
like two
Javon
2 yard passes where he's
where they have
almost
to
getting off.
carry it like
Yeah.
78 yards and if they don't then they're bums
No,
and
but
it's
but
just like
like you said, they twist their bodies, and since our players are going to get hurt on little 2 yard and 5 yard passes like 10 times per game.
well, I mean, like the catch in Cincinnati last year, where George Kittle had to go and contort his body with all the yoga he's been doing in Pilates and stuff with his sister, and he had to like break his body in half to go up for that ball. And then he didn't even count because when we went for the field goal, because we were calling it safe because Robbie Gould is still our kicker, he misses the kick. So it has to go into overtime. So it's just like, it's either Robbie or Jimmy, and just one of them is always like bludgeoning us.
Yeah, I'm okay with Robbie minus the fact that he missed a stupid extra point at one point in this season. I forgot what game it was. I was just dumb, but Robbie's okay. I just wish he had a stronger leg, and I hope this off season we look to draft a young kicker with a strong leg and perhaps unsee him. I don't know how much longer Robbie thinks he can play and how much
You
longer
know
he's
the
going to be
the crazy
effective.
part is I remember that presser where Rebel was talking about how important it was for him to not only get into the playoffs but to get to another Super Bowl and win it. And I'm just like, you're so inconsistent with your field goal kicks and your extra points during the regular season games. And usually the teams like because we're not like really strong at quarterback, so things come down to like those 4 or 5 point game differences. So those things get like really crucial. And he's just so wishy washy with when he takes kicks seriously during the regular season. I'm like, you're kind of the defining factor of getting to the playoffs. So I have major issues with Robbie Gould.
Damian Lee, you said you typed up something about Jimmy G. I was trying scrolling in the comments to find out what your question was or comment was. I literally couldn't find it. It's really hard when I'm trying to do this live to fish through the comments. But if you can type it out again, I'll read it. Yeah. Just sure. I want Jimmy G. He's our quarterback right now. He's under center right now, so obviously I
Mhm.
want him to do well. But to think that just because he's playing this year and he's won some games and he's on a streak, it's a similar streak to what he was on last year. If you look at the stats at this point in the season, it's nothing actually new. I mean, I just always think that when Jimmy gets it in the playoffs against the really really strong teams, and the moment's too big for him. It's always a situation of the moment being too big for him, and he just cracks. Now this time around, we do have guys. We do possibly have more weapons that could circumvent that
Yeah.
could possibly stop. Cover up those mistakes. Whether it happens or not, I have to see it for my own eyes. I'm not gonna. I don't. I'm not gonna put my money on it. Put it that way.
So
And
I have
go ahead.
Jimmy in a special category. I have him in the same category as Kirk Cousins and Dak Prescott. And I have him in that category because, you know, they get too much credit for when the team wins. But my fear is with all three quarterbacks, no matter how supposedly great they look, when push comes to shove and you really need them to be the guy to carry the team, they always wilt every single time. So, um, and like the touchdowns even in Mexico, like so everyone's talking about how oh my god, this is so amazing. This is Jimmy's best game ever in his career. And I'm like, a lot of those touchdowns were yak and mostly because the players themselves got the touchdowns made for themselves, Like it's like everyone keeps acting like everybody was standing in the end zone and Jimmy made some fantastical throw and we should be praising him for doing what any other quarterback would never get praised for as their starter because it's just like the normal stuff that you expect. And so that's part of my issue with Jimmy is like he gets so much more praise for like the simple things like um I forget what game it was, but you remember that one game where he threw outside to Ray Ray for the first time for
Yeah.
that big
Mhm.
catch, and just like everyone is streaming it everywhere. Like, look at this catch! He's so great. He's so wonderful. Aren't you so happy they kept him? I'm like, they're acting like it's a 50, 60, 70-yard bomb, and it's just like,
It
why are
was
we
really good, but we
so
should.
having to compliment every small thing that he doesn't get
It,
wrong?
it was a really good play, and stood out like a sore thumb because he never does it. But other
Yeah,
quarterbacks that are actually good quarterbacks do those things all the time. So that's the difference.
yeah.
Gosh, it's too funny. Okay, here we go. Here we go. I think this is what Damian Lee was trying to tell me. I don't know. He said it was a question. Was this what you wanted me to read? I don't know. He said this is Jimmy G's team. How can Trey turn the team into his? We all seen Kittle juice and CMC. Well, going into the season before the season started, they said it was Trey Lance's team. So right, it's unfortunate that Jimmy G got hurt. Then Trey Lance got hurt and Jimmy had to
Okay.
take over. But I don't see it as just. I mean, for example, look at it this way: the wide receivers are the quarterbacks. They're usually buddies with whatever quarterback there is, right? I mean, wide receivers are always palling around Trey, and they were doing it all off season. They were actually doing it in the preseason, the previous off season
Mhm.
before the 2021 season. So I don't see this whole thing where nobody's going to accept Trey Lance. I mean, Debo and Ayuk are already around Trey Lance. Sure, that they're going to pal around Jimmy right now and hype him up right now because he's the one playing on the field, But I don't see this whole transition of Trey Lance taking over as being an issue, as being something that's so far out of the realm. I don't know.
So I have a conspiracy theory about this. People keep trying to say George has a preference for Jimmy because the shirt that he wore during the NFC Championship game, and they've been tight in the past. George Kittle's close with every one of his quarterbacks. I mean, he's best friends with CJ Brother, who he went to college with. He's the one who he works the most in the off season. He's been to tight end university. He lives in Tennessee with George, like near each other supposedly. He's never said one bad word about Brian Hoyer, even though the rest of us kind of have really bad taste in our mouths when we think of Brian Hoyer. Um, he always talks well of Nick Mullins. He always talks well of Jimmy, and he talks well of Trey. So it's not like a Kittle thing where he has a preference. He gets along with his quarterbacks because that's just who he is. He's a good teammate. Um, but if you actually go back and really listen to his pressers this year, he goes, I saw maybe Jimmy once this year where I was in Vegas partying with my friends. Jimmy seemed to be at the same place at the same time. He said hi in the hallway, and that was like their only interaction this whole off season. And it felt like Jimmy kind of had George in his doghouse this year, because he had that gift that went viral from the preseason where he had his finger across the Lance name in the back, and he was talking up Trey, and they were all close, and they were hanging out, and they were going to Giants games last year when George was hurt, and they went to Warriors games and all these other like events together. They were at the Silverback documentary. So I think the George Kittle of it all is overblown, in my opinion. Um, Brandon Ayuk is just doing what's right for Brandon Ayuk. He's just working with whoever is the quarterback that's starting. Um, and then Debo, I don't know if Debo has a favorite. I mean, I think they were all over at Debo's house when they had that basketball game. Remember where Trey was in his wheelchair with the boot on, and they were all hanging out and shooting hoops and stuff. Um, Christian, I think, hasn't really got to know Trey because Trey is not like actively part of the team. He's been doing rehab by himself. Um, but Kyle Juszczyk, a lot of people know this about me. I have a real issue with, and I really have true despair in my heart for him. But I feel like the last two true Jimmy stands who don't like Trey are McGlinchey and Kyle Juszczyk and Ross Dwelly, because I feel like those three were the ones that got like the happiest when the injury happened in the Seahawks game, and they were the ones that were sitting right next to Jimmy, and they were palling around with him and laughing with him and congratulating him. And it didn't feel like they had that same energy when Trey Lance was the starting quarterback, in my personal opinion.
Got you. Joey's mad at me. I didn't read his comment. I don't know. He said that we actually scored touchdowns when we were in the red zone last week. Yeah, we did. We weren't kicking field goals. We've kicked. I mean, I'm going to end this. I'm going to end this right here and wrap it up the show. But The people are talking about Jimmy G, this amazing quarterback having this amazing season when to me it's just a typical Jimmy G season that we're, for the most part of the season, we're in the red zone and we're kicking field goals. So go back and watch those games. You'll see all these field goals kicked where other quarterbacks would have had touchdowns, thrown, or they would have been, touchdowns on the drives in general. And we all know that. Let's not lie to ourselves and act like he's doing amazing and we got to sign him on and never let go of him. Foreigners throwback before we go says Jimmy's gone next season. He doesn't want to be here. He wants to get paid. He will price himself out of the Niners. We can't afford it. Yeah, we got to sign Bosa. We got to sign other players. We got to sign the majority of our defensive linemen. Most of them are free agents. I'm talking about Omenihu, Jordan Willis. The list goes on and on for all of our 49er linemen that are going to be free
30 agents. Plus all 1 year tags between Jordan Willis, between Ross Dwelly, Tyler Croft, all in our secondary. It's like Azeez Al-Shaair still hasn't been decided on yet, so it's just one of those things you have to keep an eye on because we really don't have the capacity between not having picks and with so many one year deals to sign back, in my opinion, a very useless signing in Jimmy Garoppolo again.
Yeah, before we wrap it up, Sentinel says, I hate to be that guy, but there are memes out there about Jimmy performing well. I don't know if they're memes, but they're just actual legit posts that people are trying to, glorify the guy with. He plays like crap in playoff games and we lose, and then we get our hopes up again. Just like I said, a lot of times against big teams and stronger teams, the moment's too big for him. And it'll surprise the living daylights out of me. Dan says, let's go Niners. I wish you were here earlier. You got here very late. We're about to close this up. Nighthawk too, same to you, man.
And I wanted to ask you, what's your favorite Saints memory? Like, what's your favorite Saints win?
Against the Saints?
Yeah.
I'm obviously the one with the one in the playoffs where Alex Smith. I hate calling them the catch three because the only catch to me that was really the catch was Dwight Clark, and that year we won the Super Bowl. But you want to call it the catch three, go ahead. But that game, that Saints game with Alex Smith,
the one in overtime.
What up, Javier Rios? Dan, it's all good. You can always rewind it because we're about to close this up. I want to say we had a great showing in the chat. A lot of if I shouted out everybody pretty much, I don't think I missed anybody. We even had a Saints fan here. We had an amazing show in the chat. Really, really appreciate it.
The funny thing about that game was that was the one I was talking about earlier, the one where my family actually rooted for the Saints. The Niners. I was in Florida for my friend's birthday, and he wanted to go to Disney for his birthday, and I remember that was like the one time they all blew up my phone and left me a big thing on my answer machine where they were all screaming the Niners went in overtime and everything else. I remember the first thing I did when I stepped back in Jersey, I went on Apple because I had an Apple iPod back then, and I bought the Niners Saints game, and that's like one of my favorite things.
That game was awesome. I didn't go to that game actually. I went to the game right after, but that was a great game. But again, thank you for everybody who came on board. I apologize to the ones who are here late. And I'm really cool with those guys. You can always hit rewind and rewind it. Thank you, Melissa, for coming on. It's been a minute. I know you've been frequent in the chats and you're very enthusiastic about watching these Niner podcasts. Just let everybody know where they can follow you on social media and where they might be able to catch you on any streams coming up.
Okay, so my tag's right there. It's NJ49IZZY. I'm on Twitter and Instagram. I have the great privilege of getting to hang out with Adam from Gina's pod, Driving to the Top Productions. I get to go on and talk the actual NFL. So we've been breaking down the NFL games for the last 2 weeks and talking all the other teams in the league. And I sporadically show up on other podcasts. Lately, I got to get something off my bucket list, which is getting to hang out with MI to the Bay on the Victory Overreaction shows on Nothing But Niners, because those guys are awesome.
There you go. You've been on Nothing But Niners. It's one of the biggest channels. Sydney, the Saints fan, says, Sydney, the Saints fan, that sounds funny. Says, good luck on the game tomorrow. Who dat? Who dat? We dat. All right. Thank you guys for watching 49er Minded, where we get into the minds of 49er fans. Thank you again, Melissa. Keep repping those 49ers and stay 49er minded. Peace. Come on, 49er fans, let's get it.
Because it's 49er mind.
We gotta do this one time for the Empire.
It's 49 in mind. It's 49 in mind.
We gotta get that brick by brick real quick.
49 in mind.
Yeah, yo, we can't listen to them haters, man.
49 in mind.
We from the Bay.
49 in mind.
We them San Francisco 49ers.
49 in mind.
We got that red and gold blood inside us.
49